First, we'll talk about the red number 2. Of course, the opposing 2 snags out of the lineup. And right here, her correct thing to do would have been to move forward, getting right up on the number 2, orange number 2's left side. He's already facing the way. He doesn't want to go, and your number 1 is over there on the right to take care of the right side. But it looks like her horse had other ideas about going forward, so she doesn't take make the correct move right here. She's faced again with going to the left side of the white horse, and once again, which is still an okay thing to do, but she must connect with that white horse forward so she can control the white horse and control the ball carrier at the same time. So right here you can tell that of course, white horse is going to be trying to control her, and what our number 2 should have done is veered more to the left to keep that white horse from connecting forward of our number 2, and then connect back with the white horse after she was forward of the white horse. But she fails to collect forward, lets the other player get control of her, and then she doesn't give up. She does start going after the ball carrier again, but here she does the wrong thing by switching sides. She was already on his left side and would have had a shorter distance to go to get in front of him, to just continue on his left side to get in front. But she went to the right, switched sides, going to the right, I guess, to get on the racket side, which made it a longer distance for her to get forward of him, but also put her in the way of her teammate who was coming up on the right side. And considering her being on the right side, she should be trying to get forward of him and bend him, but what she does is stays back and takes a swing at his racket and doesn't get in front and stop him.
Rachel missed the ball. Pick it up, Robbie, pick it up. Robbie missed the ball. Rachel has the ball. Tosses it to Cody. Tosses it to Dan. Bounces off one of the...
First we'll talk about the red number 2, who's not on the screen right now. But when the ball changes hands in the area and the orange team has it, the red team in the midfield job is to keep one of those orange players from being open for a pass coming out of the area. And they were in the wrong position, up against the wrong players when it happened, so the red number 3 was up against the orange number 2, and of course the red number 3 wants to be up against the orange number 1. So when the ball changed hands, they were out of position, and the red number 3 realized she needed to quit riding off the orange number 2 and go after the orange number 1. So the red number 3 pulls off the number 2 and evidently doesn't make it clear to her red number 2 that they need to switch players, because the red number 2 got herself way out of position, not holding the orange number 2 where he was not clear for a pass, and he actually gets the pass coming out of the area. So now the red number 2 that we're watching is behind and a little bit out of position, but needs to be hustling up to try to get forward of the orange number 2 and to get him bent so he can't go down the field. So our red number 2 is pretty good about getting up to the ball carrier and not connecting with him until she is forward of him, and then she does connect. He throws the ball fairly quickly after she connects with him, so I'm not sure if she would have continued and bent him crossways to the field or not, but she does connect with him forward before he gets the pass off. And even though she didn't connect with him as quickly as she could have, she did connect with him properly, and he threw the ball very soon after she connected with him, and he threw a bad pass. So we can attribute that to our red number 2, that she put enough pressure on him appropriately to cause him to make the bad pass.
UK Australia has it right off the bat. Taking their time to get into the area.
Okay, we're going to watch the blue number 2, and in the lineup, the black number 1, of course, snags it straight out of the lineup. So as they come back around, now our blue number 2 should come back kind of straight across the field where she's heading, and that's her on the left circled, and the number 1 with the ball is on the right circled. And what she should do is just come parallel across the field, or straight across the field, paralleling that ball carrier's position until she meets up with her. Of course, there's some players between her, and all our number 2 has to do is make sure every time an opposing player gets close to her, she connects forward with it and controls that player to mark up both that player and the ball carrier. So see what happens. So she's coming around okay, but she's angling downfield rather than coming straight across the field, and she's getting in a position where she might be connecting with this opposing player a little too far back. Now, angling downfield is the way to connect more forward of them, but you angle downfield till you get your horse's shoulder in front of them, and then angle back so you connect with them with your horse forward of their horse. So she continues holding the ball carrier by holding one of the opponent players between her and the ball carrier, but she's just angling downfield, but she is still effectively holding the ball carrier and actually holds her effectively until the ball carrier actually has to turn around. Then when the ball carrier turns, the ball carrier is circled in black, and our number 2 is circled in blue on the left. But she's got her teammate was circled in blue on the right, now should take the first side of the ball carrier. So from this position, our number 2 should start heading toward the ball carrier's right side, expecting her number 1 player to catch her on the left side, on the ball carrier's left side. But right away, her number 1 doesn't get forward of the ball carrier, lets the ball carrier get in front of her, so that puts our number 2 back where our number 2 should be first to connect with the ball carrier, and should connect with her on the left side and hold her so her teammate can come over and work on the racket, but stop her from moving down the field. And she does actually get her stopped, and makes her turn once again before she gets into the end zone. Okay, now we'll watch the blue number 1. Of course, the black number 1 snags it out of the lineup, and the blue number 1 turned out like the rest of her team. Nobody went to the other side. But aside from that, once she gets lined out, the black number 1 has it, and she's kind of in this position. Her number 2 should be able to catch the ball carrier on the right side. So from right here, our number one should be heading toward the ball carrier's left side. Doesn't look like she tried to get over to the ball carrier's left side, but that is still what she should be trying to do, and she should still be trying to head towards the ball carrier's left side. And just almost before the ball carrier turns, she looks like she finally gets her horse's head over the left side of the ball carrier's horse, probably by crossing over too close behind her. But so she probably was, at least at the end or later on, trying to get over to the left side. Of course, there's somebody pushing her over to keep her from getting the left side. And since she couldn't get over there, the ball carrier was able to turn left. When our number one finally first turns around, she should have been heading to the ball carrier's left side and been the first to the ball carrier. But she is late making her turn. She turns toward the other player. It slows her down. Her horse also turned partially on the front end. That put him farther behind. So almost immediately once she gets lined out, she should realize she is not going to be first to the ball carrier for her team. And from right about here, she should start heading towards the ball carrier's right side. And then as she kind of is heading towards the ball carrier's right side, it looks like she was trying to get over to the right side. She's picked up and is ridden off for the rest of the play. First, we're going to talk about the blue number 2. Because the black number 2 gets the ball on the black side, and as soon as the black number 2 gets it in her racket, the blue team has her in a really good position. The ball carrier is headed the direction that she does not want to go, and with one opposing player on either side. Now, our blue number 2 that we're watching is a little bit farther back than she should be. So she should be trying to get up a little more forward, staying on the ball carrier's left side, so the ball carrier cannot turn left. Up against forward of the number 2, or forward enough that the number 2 can't turn left, and she's trying to turn left. But our number 2 is still in where she can get up against the ball carrier to prevent her to turn left if she would just get closer and connect. She doesn't get quite close enough here, and she almost had her, and she did actually have her to where in order for her to turn toward our number 2, she had to actually hit her body with her horse's head, which is illegal, and go over the back of our number 2's horse with the ball carrier's horse's head, which is all illegal. But she is able to make that turn. Doesn't stop, overrides, and so the ball carrier is able to make that illegal turn over the back of the horse and get away from the blue number 1 that's swinging at her racket. After that one turn, then of course the ball carrier gets some clearance, is able to pass the ball off out in front of everybody else, and our number 2 isn't really in the play anymore. She has a chance to get up there and take the right side if the number 3 would actually stop her before she gets in the area, but really isn't in the rest of this play. Okay, now we'll watch the blue number 1, and as soon as the black number 2 gets possession of the ball, the blue team actually has the black team almost in the perfect position that they want them. The ball carrier is facing the way they do not want to go, and they have a blue player on each side, but the blue number 1 that we're watching should not be going after the racket yet, but should be waiting until her teammate can get more forward on the other side so the ball carrier cannot turn away before she starts swinging at the racket. Swinging at the racket in that position when they're facing the wrong, going the direction they don't want to go is okay. It's just your teammate wasn't over there yet to hold the other side. So after that, when the teammate didn't hold her and our blue number one that we're watching followed around to the outside, so is behind the play once they start to get going and ball gets thrown down the field, so the blue one doesn't get back into that play at all. We watch the blue number two who's standing there on the 30-yard line. As the black number one comes out of the area, she should be, our blue number two should be first to the ball carrier, and she does actually connect with the ball carrier and effectively pushes her towards the side of the field where she has to throw the ball away. What she should have done is tried to get her to actually bend rather than just push her flat. And then the number one, coming out of the end zone just behind the whole play. She should be trying for the second side, but the ball carrier threw the ball away before she got up there.
Comes up into Rachel Gainer's racket. Spread your wings, Rachel Gainer, and fly down the field. Fly, Rachel, fly.
What's on the range?
Pass it off to Dan.
Get up there, Tessa! Get up there, Robbie!
Dan's coming around the groove, trying to set up a penalty. And he doesn't get called.
First, we'll talk about the red number two. And the orange team is just now getting possession of the ball. And so when they're in that position, when the orange team got possession of the ball, our red number two, who's farthest to the back of this, or farthest to the right of the screen, should start to come across the field, running like directly across the field, staying parallel with the ball carrier, and then meet up with the ball carrier, hopefully while she's still facing across the field, and just hold her crossways to the field. So it looks like she's trying to do the right thing, come straight across the field, except when she gets to about here, she has to check up to get by her own player. But she is still able to connect up with the ball carrier, she's able to get in the correct position still, even though she had to slow down there to get past her own player. So here she's having about the first opportunity to connect up with the ball carrier. And you can see she doesn't actually connect with the ball carrier, and she doesn't have her horse in the correct position to connect. But this time the ball carrier turns crossways to the field, I think on her own, giving her number one time to get down the field. But our red number two is in the correct place. She's just doesn't have her horse positioned in the correct position and does not connect up to force her into that bend. So the ball carrier kind of pulls away, I think, on her own, and then our number two gets a little bit farther away than she should have, but she still was in position where she could have connected forward and got her bent again. However, you can see once again she isn't actually connecting, and she still has her horse's head turned toward the ball carrier, so she's not going to be able to get her horse in a good connecting or pushing position to bend her anyhow. So she gets behind, and she does try to get forward again, and it looks like she may try to connect, but she doesn't try to bend that horse. I'm at a bad angle to see if she's actually connecting her horse to the ball carrier's horse, but it looks like she's just trying to be beside there, which that's better than not being beside there, because if she can just stay there and hold that side, she has her teammate coming up to work on the racket. But she'd prefer to stop the ball carrier from moving down the field, and your teammate can still come up and hit the racket. So as her teammate gets up there, as she gets towards the 30, I can't tell if the ball got knocked out, but for some reason our number 2 didn't continue holding that ball carrier at all. So now their number 1 gets the ball, and of course our players should be going after their number 1. He does decide not to go into the area, but not because he has the whole team on him, and our number 2 is getting held out to bother him at all. Now we're going to watch the red number 1, who's wearing the blue shirt. And right here, their team has the ball. Now the ball carrier is facing the way they don't want to go, and he is closest to the ball carrier, but he's going to be on the side which is not between them and their goal. So he doesn't, he wants to let one of his teammates come up on the left side, but he wants to stay up there with her on her right side, so that when his teammates get the left side, she won't have a way to turn away from them. So he stays kind of with her for about one stride, and then he starts drifting away and back, and isn't really trying to keep up with her, but it's given the orange players a chance to get between him and the ball carrier. So when the ball carrier gets down there and the red team is able to connect with them, our number 1 that we're watching is being held away from getting over to the second side. So our red team does hold for a while, and as soon as he's clear, he does start over toward the ball carrier and does start toward her second side, which would be her right side. So the number 2 doesn't actually hold the ball carrier, but she does stay up against him. And then just as our number 1 gets up there, I'm not exactly sure what happened. He might have actually hit it out of a racket, but their orange number 1 comes up with the ball. And now he should be going for their number 1. And he had an opportunity when their number 1 decided to head back up in the midfield to be first on him again. Right here, he is between the ball carrier and the goal, so all he has to do is meet up with him when he gets crossways to the field and hold him crossways to the field. But he doesn't go after the number 1 at all, and the 1 gets on into the area with nobody bothering him.
Cody!
Cody's racket, he passes it off.
Cody!
And nope, he's going to keep the ball. Throws it to Rachel. Rachel fires down the field. Still trying to fly. Flap your wings, girl. Flap them, come on. the buzzer.
Won't give it to me, Ray.
Dan trying to get back to the line to get the ball from Rachel. Throws it in.
We'll watch the red number two, and the orange number 2 snags the ball. So already she's in a good position to be first on him. She's already up against him, marking him up, and slightly forward of him. She does a pretty good job of holding him, but not of bending him. And then she finally gets a little more forward than she should, and he ends up backing over her, probably illegally, but he did it. So, and then here she reaches back for her racket rather than repositioning right away to pick him up on the other side. But she does end up picking him up, and in a fairly good position, and then he passes off the ball. So when he passes off the ball, now she has to go after the new ball carrier. So at first she should be the first to the ball carrier, but then when the ball carrier turns away and her teammate comes in and she gets kind of ridden off or ridden between, now she should be counting to be second to the ball, toward the ball carrier. So she needs to start trying to get away from her defender to go to the second side of the ball carrier. So she does keep working, trying to get clear from him, and like she should. And finally, she does get clear for him towards the ball carrier, and when she does, she's at a position where she should be second on the ball. Now, the position they're in right now, her number 1, the blue player, should be heading toward the ball carrier's left side, and she should be heading toward the ball carrier's right side. And I don't know why the blue player appeared to be switching sides there, but when she turns back towards the left, the ball carrier, the number 1 should have the left side, so our number 2 that we're watching should be heading again still for the right side. But the number 1 doesn't connect with her and control her, so he gets away and she's out of the rest of the play. Now we'll watch the blue number 1, or number 1 on the red team that's wearing a blue shirt. When the number 2 snags it, he backs up and takes a swing at the other person's racket. There's some crossing and stuff going on there between the number 1s that shouldn't have been allowed, but you have to keep playing to the umpire. So he does take a swing as the horse goes by rather than turning around and getting position to take that other side. So when he does get kind of turned around, his teammate has the ball carrier's left side, so he should be working toward the right side. But when he turns around, he does the wrong thing, which is instead of going for the ball carrier's right side and putting the most amount of pressure on, he goes, I'm sure he was thinking that the ball carrier was going to be passing the ball off, so he was going to go to intercept the pass. And that may have prevented him from throwing it, but still is not what I would say to do. So his poor number 2 has to work on the ball carrier by herself. So finally he pulls away and starts toward the ball carrier as the ball is passed off, and so now he should be heading toward the new ball carrier, which is the one player on the white horse. So as he is getting closer to there and the ball carrier takes a turn, his number 2 gets pushed away or held away, so now he should be trying for the first side of the ball carrier. And he does a pretty good job making her keep turning to maneuver. However, she's probably doing that because her number 3 or her number 1 is being held and she couldn't get it past him anyhow. She's really just killing time till finally she starts running away, and now they have the opportunity to get her facing the way she doesn't want to go, with one player on each side, but our blue player should be trying for her left side because he has a teammate coming up on her right side. And when she acts like she's going to go to the right, he was going to switch sides and pick her up first, even though he had someone over on that right side, which would not have been the correct thing to do. But she turns back to the left, and he does go appropriately to take her left side, and his teammate should be coming around to take the right side. But then he fails to connect forward of her and control her, and she ends up controlling him all the way up to the 30-yard line and gets the pass off.
A little bit of stick work gets the line there, missed the ball. Lyric recovers the ball. Captain trying to get through. Liz coming up. These sisters are going to tag team it up.
On this one, we'll only watch the number 2, and the number 2 is the one that is now closest to the camera, and the number 2 is the blue player closest to the camera. Just in front of her is her number 3, who is riding off the black number 1 who's just picked up the ball. And the blue number 1 is back there in the back of the pack, kind of to the left, and being ridden off pretty much this whole play. So we'll just watch the number 2. When they start off, it's the number 3 on the 1, and that should be the case, and we'll talk about the 3 later on. But our number 2 should still be trying to get to the ball carrier and to get forward of the ball carrier and bend her. And you can see here she does finally make it up to the ball carrier and is forward of her in a position where she could get the ball carrier stopped from going down the field by bending her. But instead, she takes a swing and overrides and does not get the ball carrier stopped. And after she took the swing and overrode, that put her in a position between her number 3 and the ball carrier. So in addition to not stopping the play, she got in the way for her number 3 to get back in front and get her stopped, and she gets on into the goal, into the end zone.
Time is on. We're adding 5 seconds to the clock. Alright, you see Australia running down the field. It's named the number 1 Lyrics racket.
Okay, first we'll talk about the blue number 2. Once the black player gets it, it's the black 1, and the blue gets lined out. She is in a pretty good position to catch up, connect forward of her, and get her bent. And she does catch up, get forward, and then connects. And so she's gotten up to the place where, and gotten herself in a very good position to get her bent. But then for some reason, before she starts pushing and bending her around, she pulls off and doesn't slow the ball carrier down anymore for the rest of the play. I will not watch the number one and won't mention why she didn't go to her area and that kind of stuff. But just now, the ball has been picked up by the opposing number one. So her job is to get up against the ball carrier with her horse slightly ahead so she can control the ball carrier and just hold her crossways to the field until her teammate starts getting close to help out on the other side. But she doesn't connect forward. Looks like when she tried to connect, she was way too far back, so that when she connected, the ball carrier actually had control of her. And then the ball carrier just controlled her, passed her up, and our number one was out of the play the rest of this play.
It's going to be Livy. Get all the way over from England to babysit. Got 11 seconds left on the clock. Ball into the racket of Livy. And that's Chaka.
First we'll talk about the blue number 2. The ball is snagged by the black 3 out the back of the lineup, and she turns around to go out the back. That's the player on the white horse. And our number 2 is right in the middle of the screen, next to her number 1. So those are the two people that need to be going after the ball, and they're kind of headed that way. So they are headed that way. The number 1 is already on the left, and our number 2 is on the right, so they are going for those sides. The number 1 is going to get there first, so the number 1 on the left will be taking the first side, and our number 2 will be taking the second side, which is the right. And they go and get in their positions to start marking up the player. But in this position, our number 2, since she is taking the second side, shouldn't be so close to, like so much forward up to the ball carrier. She should be staying back about 2 strides, maybe over to the right 1 stride from where she is right now, to give her number 1 a chance to connect with that ball carrier and get the ball carrier bent toward her, and then she just prevents the ball carrier from turning right and then follows them until they're facing the direction they don't want to go, and then she can start swinging at the racket. But that's not what happens. She swings at the racket, overrides, and then doesn't get back for the rest of the play. So now we'll be looking at the blue number 1. Of course, the 3 snags out of the lineup, and our blue number 1 didn't do what she's supposed to do in the lineup. But as she's gotten into this position, she should be chasing, going after the ball carrier, and she is so far doing that part right. And so she goes up to the ball carrier, catches up to the ball carrier, gets forward of the ball carrier, but then instead of connecting and bending the ball carrier crossways to the field, and then she could go ahead and bend her all the way till she's facing the direction she didn't want to go because her teammate's already on the other side ready. But instead of connecting, she turns her horse's head toward the ball carrier, so she's not even trying to connect. And as she turns her horse's head toward the ball carrier, her horse's body moves away from the ball carrier and opens up that space where the ball carrier can just turn toward her. And then, of course, she also overrides. and that puts her and her teammate both out of play for the rest of the play.